Flight 2605 is Mexico City's deadliest aviation accident and the third deadliest on Mexican soil after the crashes of two Boeing 727s, the 1969 crash of Mexicana de Aviación Flight 704 and that of Mexicana de Aviación Flight 940 in 1986. The crash was one of three fatal DC-10 accidents in 1979. Following the May crash of American Airlines Flight 191 at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport and preceding the November crash of Air New Zealand Flight 901 into Antarctica's Mount Erebus. The aircraft involved was a wide-body McDonnell Douglas DC-10, registered as N903WA.IT, was painted with Western Airlines DC-10 spaceship livery. With the spaceship layout, the aircraft had 46 first-class seats and 193 coach seats. The aircraft first flew in 1973 and in 6 years had logged a total of 24,614 flight hours. On the accident flight, the aircraft carried 75 passengers and 13 crew, including Captain Charles Gilbert, 53, First Officer Ernst Reichel, 44, and Flight Engineer Daniel Walsh, 39. Mexico City International Airport has two runways, runway 23 left, 23L, and runway 23 right, 23R. At the time of the accident, runway 23L had full instrument approach equipment, including an instrument landing system, ILS, while runway 23R did not. 106 On October 19, 1979, a notice to airmen was issued stating that runway 23L would be closed until further notice for resurfacing work. 108. On October 31, 1979, the flight departed Los Angeles International Airport at 1:40 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, UTC-8 o'clock, and was scheduled to land well before sunrise in Mexico City. Failed verification. The sky was quite dark, as twilight had only started 5 minutes before the crash, and ground fog obscured the runway 7. As Flight 2605 approached Mexico City International Airport, air traffic controllers cleared it for an instrument approach using the ILS of runway 23L, with an expected landing runway of 23R8. With runway 23L closed for maintenance, the controllers expected Flight 2605 to perform a sidestep maneuver 9 to the open runway 23R. On the day of the accident, the status of the persons on board Flight 2605 was reported as 63 bodies recovered, 0.8 missing and assumed dead, 0.3 passengers in intensive care at American British Cowdray Hospital, 0.9 passengers in satisfactory condition at American British Cowdray Hospital, 0.5 passengers already released from other hospitals after first aid treatment, 0.1 more passenger died of his injuries at American British Cowdray Hospital on November 18, 16, bringing the total fatality count of passengers and crew to 72. Of the 17 surviving passengers, 15 were injured, 13 are 6. As of November 6, 3 bodies had not been identified or claimed, and the coroner's office created face models to assist in identification. The rest were identified by nationality. Differing totals of ground injuries and fatalities were reported. Ground fatalities were reported as being just 1, the driver of the truck parked on runway 23L, 13, to as many as 3, the driver and 2 people in the Eastern Airlines building. Of 15, as many as 30 people were injured, including those on the ground injured by flying debris. Mexico City International Airport was forced to close to flights temporarily, and 2,000 people were reported to have traveled to the airport to view the crash site and wreckage on Friday, November 2. As Flight 2605 crashed on Mexican soil, the accident investigation was performed by the Directorate General of Civil Aeronautics, DGCA. Details of its findings were republished in International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO Circular 173, AN 1091. The probable cause of the accident was determined as non-compliance with the meteorological minima for the approach procedure, as cleared, failure to comply with the aircraft's operating procedures during the approach phase, and landing on a runway closed to traffic. 3-1. A further investigation was executed by the Airline Pilots Association, and its results were summarized in the December 1983 issue of Flying Magazine. While the ALPA report conceded that the pilots had landed on the wrong runway in the face of published minimums, it criticized the Mexican accident report as being of inadequate depth and detail and containing significant errors. A primary point of disagreement between the official ICAO report and the ALPA study was the wording and description of the failed sidestep approach to runway 23R. The official report reads, as shown by the flight recorder trace, the aircraft stayed on the correct flight path to runway 23 right for most of the time between the outer marker, Metro Eco, and Mexico City International Airport, and only deviated to the runway closed to traffic, 23 left, when at a height of 600 feet above the surmise that the crew was confused as to what was required for the sidestep approach. Further, it indicated that landing on the closed 23L required only that the crew continue their current flight path, which was a straight-in ILS approach to 23L. The following is the transcript for the last 24 seconds of the recording, lasting from the DC-10's touchdown to the moment of impact, partial cockpit communications. The accident and subsequent investigation prompted the release of NTSB safety recommendations A80-59 and A80-60. The recommendations required explicit published runway approach procedures for airport approaches involving sidesteps and distribution of documentation of sidestep approach procedures in general. Not only Western Airlines Flight 2605. There's similar crashes to Western Airlines Flight 2605. Singapore Airlines Flight 006, which also crashed on a runway closed for construction because of confusion between runways during takeoff roll in 2000. Exactly 21 years later, Aeroflot Flight 3352, a Tupolev Tu-154, struck vehicles on the runway while landing in 1984. Calm Flight 5191 mistakenly attempted takeoff from the wrong runway in 2006. Killing all aboard except one pilot. China Airlines Flight 204, a wrong runway takeoff Flight 2605. The Western Airlines Flight 2605 crash, which occurred on October 31, 1979, was determined to be non-compliance with meteorological minima for the approach procedure, failure to comply with the aircraft's operating procedures during the approach phase, and landing on a closed runway. The end of the right wing eventually struck the corner of an aircraft repair hangar, causing damage to the hangar and also fracturing the DC-10's right wing. The plane then impacted an Eastern Airlines service building north of both runways, 26 seconds after it had initially touched the ground. There was 88 occupants on the plane, 72 fatalities died, and 16 injuries, which lead to 0.16 survivors. Ground fatalities. 0.1 died due to the plane's gear. Collab on the truck. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I see you in the next video.